The 2013 Tomb Raider reboot was a game that I really liked, so naturally I was incredibly excited for Lara Croft's next adventure, Rise of the Tomb Raider. But aside from the fairly negative public opinion of this game, how good is it as like a video game? Well, here I am bringing you my super late review for this game, thanks to the retailer I pre-ordered the game from fucking my order up. Starting off with the graphics of this game, Rise of the Tomb Raider is an incredibly beautiful looking game. It might not be as good looking as something like Rise Son of Rome or The Order 1886, and nothing close really to the best looking graphics you can get on PC, but in and of its own, this is a really good looking game. The colors are incredibly vibrant and saturated, and textures, especially on something like the ice blocks in this game, look really good. But the aspect that really gets the biggest improvements from the last game are the character models. Lara herself looks incredibly realistic, looks like a real actual human being with some very nice detail in her face, and her talking animations look really realistic and good, and this for the most part carries over to the side characters. With that being said though, at times this game can look pretty inconsistent. While I mentioned that textures for the most part look really good, there are also places where they look kind of bad, like some foliage in this game receiving some painfully low resolution textures, which really can sometimes break the immersion if you happen to find it and come across it. But with all of that considered, that's not really going to take away from the fact that Rise of the Tomb Raider is one of the best looking console games of this generation. And really, when you think about it, even for PC standards, this is a good looking game. Not fantastic looking, but good looking. Now obviously the drawback of having a game that looks this good and runs at full HD is going to be performance, and that is really where the game suffers a little bit. It runs at 30 FPS for the most time, and that is what Crystal Dynamics was targeting with Rise of the Tomb Raider, but there were a lot of parts of the game where the frame rate just drops. Like, not even in some of the more demanding sequences. In some of the less action sequences, I can still notice the frame rate dropping, and I don't know what it is. Maybe the game is loading something, it's trying to calculate some things, but at times, even in the less demanding scenes, this game does drop some frames. But back to the good stuff, the sound design is really where this game shines. Everything just sounds so realistic, but again, a bit inconsistent, with some of the elements and the assets, and especially some of the guns, sounding a bit rattly and a bit weird. So when you factor everything in, this is overall a good looking game. It's not the best looking game, but it is far from the worst looking games out there, and that coupled with the incredibly ambitious level design and the semi-open world of this game, it's quite impressive what Crystal Dynamics was able to achieve with Rise of the Tomb Raider. The story is also good, for the most part. I guess the correct way to describe the story is that it is ambitious, but that's not entirely a good thing. It took me about 10 hours to complete on the Tomb Raider difficulty with a little bit of exploring here and there, but back to the story itself, it's a globe-trotting adventure game, throwing you around the world from England to Syria and Siberia and just everywhere, but at times the transitions between the locations feel a bit rushed and a bit jarring sometimes. Sound familiar? But all in all, is the story good? Yeah, it tries to do new things and expand upon Lara's character, fleshing her out as a human being more than ever before, but just like with the previous entry in the series, that character development doesn't really carry on to the side character, with a possible exception of Jonah, but he is not really that much present in this game. But really, this is an aspect where Crystal Dynamics really needs to improve upon if they really want people to care about the characters and the story outside of Lara Croft herself. Now all that stuff wouldn't really matter all that much if the gameplay was good, and it is. It is probably the strongest aspect of this game, and that's something worth mentioning. They've added some new well-implemented mechanics into the platforming parts of the game. And what I mean by that is that you can throw in new platforming mechanics here and there, but if you don't implement them well, they're kind of a waste. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, they don't feel like a waste. They feel like they're in there for a reason, and they really add to the experience of this game. The stealth also sees a big improvement from the last game, with Lara Croft being able to take enemies from above, below, and of course directly behind.
Primary objective is defined in this.
And it just looks brutal like the last game. Although I do think the melee combat could use some improvement. Way too often did I find myself swinging my axe all around the place trying to hit an opponent, and in some cases dying because of the game not locking onto a target that I was trying to hit. Again, a bit inconsistent, just like a lot of this game. And speaking of brutal, the death animations remain just as brutal as in the last game, and I love it. The level design is also something noteworthy, granting the player a lot of options of how to approach certain situations. Now, if there is one aspect of gameplay and combat that I was slightly disappointed with, including the melee combat, and that is the shooting. It's uninspired to say the least. It's passable, but it's really nothing to write home about, and you'll really enjoy the platforming sections of this game far more than the combat sections, at least I did. And that is a case where this game really shines, and that is the exploration. There is just a massive amount of additional missions to do, challenge tombs to discover, relics and documents to find, and animals to hunt. Oh yeah, the hunting also makes sense this time around since it's needed to upgrade some of the weapons and equipment. And the game also just does a fantastic job of rewarding those who are willing to explore outside of the main campaign excellently. And this game even lets you throw chicken. What other game lets you throw chicken? Now, from a technical standpoint, I didn't really encounter any issues when it came to Rise of the Tomb Raider. I had one glitch which was kind of weird and kind of funny that you'll see on screen right now, and the game did crash on me once, but that was about it. I didn't encounter anything else, not nearly as many as in something like Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and I was actually kind of impressed how bug-free it was, but it crashed, so that's not exactly a good thing, but I thought I should mention this. Now, with all of these things considered, Crystal Dynamics has created an exceptional Tomb Raider game. It's one of the best games I've played this year, and it should definitely not be missed. It's a game that you have to play if you're on an Xbox One or even a 360. I heard the port was really good, unless you hate the franchise with a passion for some reason, and I give it a 9 out of 10. This is a damn good game.
I'm living in my second childhood.
Every day is a child, I would think. I never change, I'm too stuck in my